Today's news is incredibly salacious, and so we are bringing in Katie Fang to hear what she has to say. Welcome, Katie.
I'm like struggling through this idea of salacious and Katie, but you know what? I'll take it. Why not? I've heard worse adjectives. I've heard better adjectives. But
That was my
salacious Katie,
bad.
I'll take that one. No, it's not.
Katie, we are
Trust me.
so glad you're here to join us. Jennifer's on vacation, so I appreciate you pinch hitting. I wanted to talk to you about all the crazy stuff with MAGA. I mean, MAGA is melting down on this whole Jeffrey Epstein cover up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to look at it from the lens of being a lawyer, right? And what I did is after I heard all of this BS coming from Pamela Joe, why she's not going to release it, and that really reluctant kind of Dan Bingo Boingo Bongino hedging on it, as well as Cash Patel. I went back to the indictment, the last superseding indictment for Ghislaine Maxwell. Because remember, she got indicted after Epstein died, and I'll put that with
Right.
an asterisk, right? So you go back to this indictment, and the crazy thing is, it clearly states in at least two of the counts for which she was indicted by a grand jury, and she went to a jury trial, and she was convicted, and she's serving a sentence in federal prison, that she conspired with Jeffrey Epstein, quote, and others, end quote. So at a minimum, there are conspirators, co-conspirators that participated in criminal conduct. There have been multiple grand juries impaneled, and putting aside the confidentiality of grand jury records, which I understand, but at this point with Epstein dead, Maxwell in prison, I think they should all be out. But you also have civil litigation. So what I don't understand is, if there's nothing to see here, move along, people, then what's the harm in releasing all of it with the proper redactions to protect the safety and the identities of the victims? I am not saying let's do an expose on victims. I want to focus on the people that had their fingerprints and their DNA literally involved in this. And I don't give a shit if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Put it all out there and let the American public judge as they should.
I completely agree. What fascinates me about this whole thing is these conspiracy theorists who are like pedophile rings at pizza gates in basements that they don't have basements, that they're not making the leap. Like Epstein died under Trump. Epstein's files are not released under Trump. And then, obviously MAGA, I don't give them that much credit, but the Dan Bonginos, who he hasn't connected the dots, I don't understand that. That's what fascinates me is somebody who knows, that's been in the FBI. They know. Elon Musk knows because he told us on his Twitter account, he knows. So
Hmm.
how are they not? I mean, I guess they really believed it. Is that what my takeaway is?
I don't think they ever legitimately believe it. I think they are people of convenience, right? And so for them, they know what the red meat is for that base. I think the problem ends up being the lack of accountability, as in self kind of accountability. Like, I made a mistake. Like, I bought into this hook and sinker and I never should have. No, what they're struggling with is, how do I abandon these very public forward-facing statements I've made about the value of these files and how they have been suppressed and hidden by Democratic administrations and Democratic DOJs? And now clearly we have a Republican administration, a Republican DOJ, a Republican AG, and she literally is gatekeeping information that all of them have made such a big stink over years. I'm not talking just a couple of weeks. For years, they have ridden this horse to death. And now they're standing there looking, they're like, well, why is the horse dead? Like, what am I supposed to do with it? Well, dumbasses, we're not going to let it go to the glue factory. We're going to make sure that it's out there, which is why Ro Khanna was like, hey, here's an amendment. Let's vote on it. And of course, the House Republicans are like, psych, we don't really want the Americans to see what's in this.
Right. That's a perfect segue because last night they went in under cover of darkness and voted against releasing the files. What does that say to you?
That says that old lady right there in the middle of this picture needs to get the hell out of Congress. And, it just goes to show that we are fighting a battle as Democrats against people that constantly are changing the rules, constantly moving goalposts and constantly changing the landscape of the battle and the fights. In my opinion, it means to me that rules just don't apply, right? Like
Right.
the rules don't apply, the laws don't have any meat, and they don't have any basis in reason with these people. So it's kind of like, do we continue to try to engage? So I commend Ro Khanna because he said, I'm just going to keep on bringing it up over and over and over again until something happens. And good for him. At the same time, though, we can also kind of pay attention to all the other stuff that's going on, which I think we're doing pretty well right now.
Yeah, I do think it's getting better. But how about Ghislaine Maxwell has volunteered to testify in front of Congress? I mean, that, if the midterms actually happen, and if we actually get to a Democratic majority, and Ghislaine Maxwell's out there saying, yeah, I'll come testify, the Republicans are blocking it. But I think that the Democrats would allow it. Wouldn't you assume they would?
What's crazy is that you're bringing up a graphic from Drudge Report, which, as
I
you and I both
know.
know, for years was like such a pro Republican conservative kind of rag, very MAGA. But even Drudge they lost Drudge a while ago. And so, anyway, I said when all of this Epstein stuff resurfaced, I was not kidding when I said that they needed to put this woman in protective custody because she is literally one of the last people that has the direct one-on-one knowledge with Jeffrey Epstein. And I do think it's a big tell. You and I also kind of knowing the law of the land and the legal landscape. I think it's a big tell that she's never said anything. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because she's been holding out, although really I think she would have spilled the beans to help her sentencing. But what's crazy is she feeling intimidated that she is not going to say something? I mean, there's a lot there. And so I wasn't kidding when I'm like, maybe we need to put her in protective custody because, again, I put that asterisk there about Jeffrey Epstein, but whatever.
Okay, let me ask you this question. So Pam Bondi releases the footage, but doesn't go in and scrub the metadata. So it shows that she completely spliced that video. And then you have Ghislaine Maxwell. She's still in jail. My thought is, if she were going to testify in front of Congress or give a statement, wouldn't the powers that be in the Justice Department just tell her, leave all references to Trump out? And given the fact that then he could pardon her, she might do that. I mean, do you think that's a possibility, or have I gone down the crazy conspiracy rabbit hole?
No, I mean, the idea of crazy pardons is not crazy, right? Because we've seen them happen. I mean,
Right.
we still know that P. Diddy is pending sentencing, but he's gunning for a pardon still, right? For his crazy conviction. Um, that's a really interesting thought. I think that she has nothing to lose, though. So I think she's too much of a wild card for this DOJ, meaning even if she said she wasn't going to say something about somebody like Donald Trump, there's really nothing stopping her per se. And I also think that I think those types of backroom deals eventually see the light. And I think that even this Bondi DOJ knows that if they were to try to strike a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell, where she doesn't say something about Donald Trump and others in exchange for either getting a reduced sentence or getting a pardon, I don't think anybody would actually keep that under wraps. And it's weird because now we're championing people in the world of MAGA
Right.
that are taking a stand, but like, can I footnote something for a hot second? Bongino hasn't gone to his job since last week. Who the hell doesn't get to go to their job
Right.
because they're mad at their coworker over a pedophile? Like that just kind of gives you an idea of how messed up MAGA land is, that this guy said, peace out to my job for the long weekend and then some. And nobody's like, are you going to come do your job? I mean, the guy works in the FBI, but he's not going to go to his job.
Well, and what's interesting is he was all over Fox News crying about the stress. And I'm just like, because he misses his kids. I'm like, dude, women have been putting their kids in daycare and going to work for years, decades even, and they're not on the news crying about it. Like this whole men are more emotional than women. It just goes all through me. So here was what I was surprised about in retrospect. I'm surprised they didn't release the Epstein files and conveniently remove the parts that reference Trump. That to me would have seemed like a better solution because MAGA would have gotten what they wanted and he would have been kept out of it. Do you think it's too late in the game for them to go back and do that?
I don't think it's a secret. We all know that Trump had a long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, some of which is above board, some of which suggests allegedly that it's not, right? So I'm sure his name appears multiple times throughout it. We know that the plane logs, the flight
Right.
logs reflect that at a minimum. And let me be clear, that also reflects some people that are part of the Democrats, right? I mean,
Sure.
period. I do think maybe this transcends just the Trump references, though. I think there may be references to other very big businessmen, maybe even women in the Republican establishment that Trump is trying to protect as well. These are people that give him money. These are donors, I bet you. I mean, Epstein wasn't picky about party affiliation in terms of who he rubbed elbows with, right? And so I think that could be part of it. But you know what's outrageous? We're having these conversations and living in the land of speculation. Why not just release it, redact the victims, redact, make sure we don't see inappropriate videos, make sure we're not promoting anything that is illegal or criminal in conduct. And then why don't we just let people deal with the consequences as the chips fall, right? It's just, what is it? Is it the butterfly effect? Is that what you call it? Like, or the Barbara Streisand effect?
The
It's
Barbara
like the
Streisand
less
effect.
you,
Yeah.
the less you want to talk about it, the more we're talking about it. And the thing is we're not going to let it go because it's in the vein of Pizzagate. It's in the vein of these crazy conspiracy theories, it was all the Democrats' fault for not releasing this information. And now we're sitting here being like, hello, TikTok, TikTok. It's all within your control, and y'all are just sitting on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's an interesting thing about the not talking about it.
I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Is this going to work for the base is my question.
No, I think it's going to generate more interest and more questions. The thing about Charlie Kirk is, if you listen carefully to what he said, first of all, didn't it look like he was reading from a script? It looked like he was reading for
Yes.
something. One,
Yes.
two, like he was careful. Two, he said, "I'm done talking about the Epstein stuff," quote, "for the time being." So I think even he is not going to let this bone go, especially because, putting aside the people talking about it that are the very public marquee name people, if you go, which I don't, by the way, but if you go and you check out all the chatter and all these crazy, incel places and like people's parents' basements and shit, like they're still talking about it and they're mad.
Mad.
They're pissed. It's not like, hey, I wonder why. It's more like, release them now. Why are you lying? Etc. So I'm like, okay, well, let them self-immolate and let them cannibalize each other out of this. But in the meantime, again, come on, let's see what's out there.
I find it interesting of all the crazy shit that Trump has done. This is what his base is not letting go. Taking a jet from Qatar and spending all this money on his military parade and, best friends with Vladimir Putin, all that shit, they just let it roll off him like water off a duck's back. But this is what they're hanging on to. I just find that interesting.
I was doing a Substack live with my buddies, the Good Liars.
Oh, I love them.
They, oh my God, they tripped me out. So they told me that when they go to these rallies, I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. When you talk to these MAGA people and, they're obsessing over their cult leader, and then something happens that is obvious, calling out Trump that he lied about something, right? Like it obviously refutes. The truth comes and the reality comes and it smacks them in the face. Like, do they then say, well, buyer's remorse, or, I have to eat some crow? And Jason Devrom told me, the Good Liars, they said, no, because for them, they just have to make up a reason behind why that happened. So they said, for that stupid birthday military parade, right? Which we all thought was just, him stroking his ego, which definitely it was.
Right.
But they told me that they were going to this parade on his birthday, and they thought, because they have the little QAnon chats and their crazy Reddits and whatever, that was going to be the beginning of the military takeover of the United States. That Trump had assembled you laugh, but these mofos are like totally buying this shit. That Trump had assembled the military in the nation's capital, and that would commence the Civil War and the military takeover of the U.S. So when it didn't happen, they of course are like, okay, well, it was just the beginning, and it was just like the prelude to what it is. So when you try to extrapolate to something like Epstein, it's like a lot of them haven't been hit by the big bullshit bill cuts yet, because the Republicans scammed everybody into, stacking it up at a timing where it's going to kick in post 2026 midterms, whatever. So, they're bored. And like they aren't impacted by Russia, Ukraine. What do they care that Ukraine now gets some military aid? The tariffs they're complaining about, but they're still blaming other countries because they're too dumb to realize that it actually trickles down to them as the consumer.
Right.
So they're bored. And the conspiracy theories are the ones that give them life. It's the ones that generates the crazy ass chats, like group chats, like, hey, Bubba, did you notice that, like, the Epstein, like that type of energy gives them life, which is why they're not going to let this stuff go.
Well, I'm enjoying watching it. I need popcorn. Katie Fang, thank you so much for joining us. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back soon.